To be honest, is the pod going on? To be honest, sit down, we need to have a talk. Cornelius gon' make a point that the others don't. Them other shows sound the same, come escape the box. Expand your mind, dig into no controversial topics. He ain't scared to keep it real. Tune into this podcast, but don't be in your feelings. We gon' have a laugh, we gon' talk about some pain. Let's talk about the present situation of today. Yeah. To be honest, is this the podcast? I need to tune it right now.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is C. O to the is R. Okay, I can't do it because it says Hova. And I can't spell the whole thing because my name is so freaking long. But anyway, yo, this is Cornelius Lindsey. Welcome to Be Honest. I'm like, you know what? I'm up here and I'm interviewing all my homies, and I'm like, I ain't even really introduced myself to you. So this is going to be my opportunity to be able to let you know who I am. And prayerfully, if you ain't already subscribed, if you ain't already shared, if this ain't already your favorite podcast, and I don't even know what you waiting on, bruh. I don't really even know. But today is going to be a good day because, hey, we're going to sit down and have a conversation. I'm going to be able to really introduce myself to you. Yo, I'm ready. Let's do this.
Couple questions for you.
Okay, questions. Let's do it.
All right, first question. Do you consider your freedom in Christ to be an offense to others?
Wow. Are you referring to like me that now that I have resigned from pastoring?
Even before, did you experience some sort of freedom in Christ that allowed you to be who you unapologetically were?
Now I definitely feel like, you know, I've embraced authenticity. I've embraced individuality. I've embraced vulnerability. I've embraced it to such a point that I am quite confident that it is offensive to some people who are still on a journey of trying to figure out who they are, because they don't know who they are. And anytime you don't know who you are, then you're open to somebody else being able to tell you who you are. But when you finally know who you are and you're firm in your identity, you become dangerous. And people get offended by that because people want to control you. They want to control your narrative. They want to control what you say. They want to control what you do. They want to control how you should respond. I've had people to accuse me of bull crap, and then they want me to respond to it. Where I'm like, I'm not responding to this crap. Like, you're not getting me. You're not getting me to be able to do this, especially not on your timeline. Because I don't run when you tell me to. I don't do anything when I'm told to do it. You know what I mean? You talking about when I was accused? I mean, naturally, the flesh, like that humanistic part of me wants to be able to say something, but I finally come to the conclusion that you can't, when you're not really arguing truth and you're just arguing opinion, then it doesn't really matter what truth you give people because they're going to always have an opinion. It's like the court of public opinion will always have something to say, and the court of public opinion does not want, they don't use truth as evidence. That's the reason why it's the same way with in the Bible. There's a parable. There's this story about this woman who these religious zealots, they brought this woman over to Jesus. She was caught in the act of adultery. They brought her over to Jesus and they threw this woman in front of him and they said, you know, this woman deserves to be stoned. She deserves to be killed. Now Jesus is the only one who had the authority to kill her, to sentence her to death. Jesus, instead of killing this woman, looks at the religious zealots and he says to them, to the accusers, he says to them, he who is without sin, throw the first stone. The problem was that nobody there was without sin. They were all sinful, but yet they were the accusers. And one by one, they just put their stones down. Now, we usually stop right there, but the craziest part of that whole story is not the fact they just put their stones down, but they left because they were so interested in the woman's trial. They were so interested in her judgment, so interested in her downfall. But none of them fools stayed and waited for her redemption because they didn't care anything about her redemption. They didn't care anything about grace. They didn't care anything about mercy. They didn't care anything about truth. They didn't care anything about the compassion, the empathy that Jesus was showing this woman. They didn't care anything about that. All they cared about, they were bloodthirsty and thought that they had something on this woman. And when Jesus turned the table and flipped it around on them, then they had no other choice but to silence them. So for some things in your life, like you learn that you go through, I believe it just becomes a testament. It becomes a testament to the future that you're able to just to look back on and just to share. Because, you know, it's almost like how my wife, her conference is all about no smoke. And I think that's how we kind of felt. It was like, you know, you can kind of go through the fire and you kind of come out of it with no smoke at all.
So what has changed from you stepping down from ministry? What has changed regarding your viewpoints towards the church? Do you feel the church is toxic?
I don't think the bride of Christ is toxic. I think the culture within it is. Now, so I pastored for 8 years, and I do feel like it is. There's a heavy emphasis on the stage, where as a pastor, it was my responsibility to make sure that I was empathetic and compassionate for everybody else's junk in the church. That was my responsibility. So here's the thing: as a pastor, I knew junk. That was my responsibility. I mean, I still know junk, but I would never like go and spill junk because I'm a vault. That's what I've always been. But I carry people's pain. So when there was an adulterous affair, when there was this thing, when there was, you know, domestic violence, you know, when all these things happened, I knew about it. And it's like, these were not things that were accusations. These were things that I knew were fact. But it was something that even like small accusations, it turned the table to where people who I knew actually did things, those people like started to look and was like, well, I don't know about you, you know? It is because we put so much of an emphasis on the stage, and I think because we're creating so many superheroes on the stage, we don't give them any room to be human. And I'm not, right, when I talk about that, I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about, it's about within the culture itself. Whereas, you know, you have these these superhero type of beings, personalities, and we place them on a pedestal where they're just supposed to be all these things to all people. And that's just not real. And, you know, one of the things that would always get me is with the culture of the church, it is, in most times, it's extremely competitive. When, in my opinion, when ministry becomes competition, it ceases from being ministry. It becomes about who I can get into church. Like, it's almost like it goes from in the church world, the one topic of conversation you normally get amongst preachers is how many people you running. You know, what's your percentage of tithers? It's like, how the hell am I supposed to know who tithes in the church? I'm not one of those pastors. I didn't check because I didn't care. But it's like, who you know, how many people, what's your percentage of people tithe to your church? What's your percentage, or how many young people come into your church? Great numbers, I guess you should know, because, you know, as they tell you in other church growth conferences, you need to know your numbers. But oftentimes what we missed in the culture was, how was the leader? Like, I'm depressed going home on Monday. We talk about it in church conferences. We talk about it amongst pastors, how we get up and we pour our life out on Sunday, and on Monday we feel suicidal. Because I've given you everything I got. But now it don't quit, because it's a machine. You got to keep running the machine. You got to keep it going. You got to keep it going. You got to keep it going. And then it becomes very difficult because everybody wants something different from you. It's like, well, why can't you be more active in the community? It's because I got 300 of you over here. Like I got a couple of y'all, like mama's sick. This person just died. This person's is pregnant. This person's marriage is falling apart. These people just got out of jail. These people are going to jail. I need to go get these people out of jail. This person is getting kicked out of their house. This person don't have a car. This person's walking. This person just got shot. So you got all this stuff going on over here, and you're still trying to keep the machine going over here. And I think COVID was like the pandemic and the stay-at-home order was good for, I think, leaders to be able to step back and be like, I mean, for good for me, because for 3 years I contemplated walking away. But it was good for me to be able to step back and say, hold up. Is this healthy? Like, honestly, is it healthy? Then I talk to other pastors, they'll say, well, I feel like you're doing it wrong. Because that was the thing I got. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. You should have this type of structure, put these type of leaders in place, put this type of thing in place. And I'm like, hold up, maybe my culture is different. Maybe my culture is different. Maybe the generation that I'm reaching is different. Maybe, that's easier for you to do because, you had some 50, 60, 70-year-olds in your congregation who have a little more staying power or sticking to it. But I think the culture has to be reworked. I think the messaging, like the coming to, I think it's all those things that we already know, but I don't think we're ready as a culture, as a people yet to really acknowledge, is this working? We're running around the church. We are, we're throwing money at it. We're doing all these things. We're doing all these things. And here, I'm not saying that what people are doing is a horrible thing. I'm going to tell you stop going to church. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, dude, we're doing all these things, but are we really making impact? That was my thing. And I had to step back, and instead of asking about the church as a whole, I had to think about myself. And I had to step back and say, okay, Cornelius, where could you make the most impact? Where could you have the most impact? And for me, I didn't feel like that impact that I am called to make best fit behind the pulpit as a pastor. Now, preaching, I'm still gonna be traveling. I'm still gonna be preaching. I'm still getting invitations. I'm still gonna do all those things. Preaching is something I'm gifted at doing. I'm an evangelist at heart. I'm gonna do that, and I do that extremely well. God has just gifted me to do that. But when it comes to really pastoring people in that role, I knew that's not my greatest impact.
So I want to take a few steps back for the person that may be just now tuning in. They may be watching this and they don't know who you are. They don't know your history. All this talk about you pastoring and stepping down. They're curious as to what happened to you to lead you up until this point. So you started the church in 2013.
2013, yeah.
And even before then, you began to build a successful ministry with you and your wife. Right. So you started to build this successful ministry, and you started the church in a theater where at times you're only preaching to those that you knew.
Yeah.
Friends and family.
6, 7 people, 14 people, 11 people, 30 people, 40 people. Then it went to 500. Then we had 1,000. Yeah.
And so that ministry grew. And for a long time, in the beginning phases of the actual church, you were putting your own money into building this church.
That's all it was. It was our money.
It was all yours.
It was all mine. I mean, because 300. So in the theater we were renting, the one theater we was renting, it cost us $350 a Sunday. $350 a Sunday to rent the theater. And when you got, 6, 7 people, 11 people, 14 people coming into church, I mean, I remember because I never counted the money because I never wanted to touch it. Like even to this day, I was like, I never wanted to touch it. We have an accounting firm and all that kind of stuff. I never wanted to touch it because I never wanted to be said, oh, he's taken from the church. So it was like, I didn't want to touch it. And I never forget in the early stages, we had 2 people who would go and count the money. And I remember they took the money in the back and they came back like 5 minutes later. I was like, yo, what happened? You finished? And it was like, yeah, we finished a long time ago. We just talked in the back. It was legit change. And I'm like, yo, how are we going to pay, this bill every Sunday? So every Sunday, like when we tell people like we started our church with faith and an American Express card, that's legit what we did. And we didn't have the faith for the church. The faith was so the American Express card could go through because it was in our name. So we just swipe until the church had enough to be able to support. But then the crazy thing was more people started to come. As more people started to come, it's like, well, now we need a space for children's church. So then we had to pay extra for children's church. So then the theater charges for an additional room. Well, what people didn't realize was just because we had 100 people in the room didn't necessarily mean that all 100 people were giving. And then in the very beginning stages, and even up until, man, maybe like my 5th or 6th year as a pastor, I didn't even pass the offering bucket around, the plate around, because I was like, I don't want that to be here, because I came from an environment where it was very much money driven. So I didn't want that to be the case. So I try to go to the other extreme where people are like, well, where do I give my money? Where do I put my money? Where do I take my money? And then finally we're like, okay, we need something to do. So I would just tell people, hey, whatever God tells you to give it on your way out the door. Somebody that's holding the bucket, you can just put it in there and go. But I mean, yeah, that was all that we put into it. But, you know, those days taught us a lot about leadership, taught us a lot about service, and taught us a lot about people, and taught us a lot about ourselves. The good thing is, though, I really want people to know, who are just probably, getting introduced to who I am, is that while I pastored for over 8 years, like pastoring, while that is how some people came to know of me, that's a very small piece of my life. A really, really small, minute piece of my life where, like, I'm 34 years old now. I don't know how, I mean, this is 2021. 2021, I'll be 35 this year. And I just look back over my life, Jay, and I think about everything that I've had an opportunity to accomplish in just this short frame of my lifetime. And I'm really excited about it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really excited about it. And when I think back, I'm like, pastoring, while it was 8 years of my life, it was a very short time of my life.
Yeah. So, we're skipping ahead to now, and I wanted to talk to you about impact. And the impact that you see yourself providing, especially with men. And not even just with men of color, but just men in general. What do you see now that demands something from you?
Yeah.
To be able to provide.
I got preachers, pastors, and I put them in different categories. Sometimes people try to confuse the two. You could preach and not pastor. And I know a lot of pastors not good preachers. They can still preach, they're just not, well, that's another, okay. But I know I got preachers, I got pastors, I have senior account executives, I have teachers, I have principals, I have guys in my DMs, in my emails. And I even have their wives who are saying, my husband needs help. Police officers, retired Marines who are saying, my mental health is degrading. CEOs, COOs, executive VPs, founders, entrepreneurs, creators, thinkers, inventors, they're saying my mental and my emotional health is degrading. And here's the reason, because many of them can't be themselves. So I got pastors who are reaching out to me, and they're basically, I think it all in fun, all in jest, but they're like, I envy your freedom. I wish I could have that, but I'm tied to this. And if I were to say some of their names, it would be shocking, because you would think, oh, this person out here is successful. They got it going on. They out here, they killing the game. It looks like they're doing it. And here's the crazy thing. They're killing something, but whatever they're killing is killing them. Their family is suffering. I'll never forget, bro. Like, I would meet pastors who were in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and I'm sitting down with them, and it seemed like every single one of them, I would ask them, what if there was something you could do, something you wish you can go back on, what would you do? And they would say, I wish I would have spent more time with my family. I wish I would have spent more time with my children. I wish I would have traveled more with my children. I wish I would have spent more time with my wife. I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. And I thought to myself, like, this is starting to be a pattern. Y'all don't think this is toxic? Like, we giving a lot to activity. We're giving a lot to achievement. We're giving a lot to awards. We're giving a lot to rewards. But while in the process, like, we're dying, we're decaying inside. Like, we helping everybody else, but nobody's pouring back into us. And the demanding part for me now is being able to use my voice and the platform I have specifically for men, to say all this, man up bull crap. Like, I get it. I am a David Goggins fan. I love that guy. I think how he gives, and if you don't know David Goggins, I just say check him out. I love his whole story. Love his book, Can't Hurt Me. I think it's amazing. When I say that whole man up stuff, it is like this man don't cry, all that kind of stuff. Men can't have feelings. These little boys in the house is told you got to be the man of the house, no emotion, kicked out. It's like a lot of men abused by women, thrown away by fathers, emasculated, degraded, segregated. It's like I see these men, I'm hearing their stories. And I want to use my voice and my platform as much as I can, as loud as I can, to be an advocate for men. Our jail cells are filled with men that are broken, restoration. Where is it going to come from? What are we going to do for them? Young boys in juvenile centers. It's not just because he didn't have a father. It's because he doesn't have an idea what his identity is. And we're just throwing our little boys into more activity. I sit down with professional athletes. They're walking away from the game, going back to alcohol and drugs. Like, dude, you got a contract for $66 million. Now you have nothing to show for it because you spent a lot of it on drugs and alcohol. The reason being is because you didn't know who you were when you went into the game. So the game became your life. And now that you're out of the game, you don't even know who you are. And we're not talking about identity. We're talking about reputation. We ain't talking about character, though. We're not talking about who we really are inside. We're talking about reputation. Get your rep up. Have a brand. Like, I know. I used to put all that stuff, too. You know what? I've almost got to that point. It's like, screw that branding stuff. Screw that reputation stuff. I'm a man of no reputation. I don't care what people think about me. I don't care what people say about me. That ship has sailed. Like, at this point, I am for keeping my brothers alive, man. Like, we got men out here killing themselves. Men, higher number of suicide rates. That while women also attempt, we go through it, and most time in a more violent fashion. I'm tired of my brothers. I'm tired of my pastors and my leaders and my high influence leaders. I'm tired of them out here just being another hashtag. I'm tired of them also just being a picture that we post up, and we think about it for what, three days, and then we go and we comment underneath it. Oh my goodness, I can't believe this happened. RIP, and we don't think about it anymore. But then 2 years later, we don't think about the family. This wife and his kids out here still suffering because his daddy is dead because we didn't want to take the appropriate time to realize that mental sickness is real. Like, I guess because I've gotten to that point where there's nothing you can entice me with anymore. I slept in hotel rooms, bro, that were $10,000 a night and $1,000 a night and $100 a night. All I got was a rented bed. That's all it was. I've slept. I've been on beaches with beautiful white sand. I've been on black sand beaches. I've been on pink sand beaches. You know what I got when I left? Sand in my suitcase. That's it. It was just pink, black, and white. I've traveled the world. I've spoken to different people. I've traveled private jets, and I've traveled commercial. I've stayed in 7-star in Dubai. And I've stayed in 2-star in Minnesota, Little Falls, Minnesota. This crap don't impress me anymore. I'm not impressed by it. And maybe I needed to go through all of that for me to finally realize that this poor boy from Mississippi, grew up in a little small town, Newton, Mississippi. My mom and dad, They are some true hustlers, man. I grew up double wide trailer. It's like I guess I needed to experience all of it to realize that that's not even real life. So I'm out here and I'm seeing my brothers, man, and I'm seeing the impact they're making. And now I know I want to be a support for them. I gotta be a support for them. Like, screw my life. Like, screw that. I'm going to take care of me. I got my boundaries up, got my mental health together, my therapy, all that kind of stuff. But I have to be a sounding board for my brothers to get them to wake up and realize that all this crap out here we trying to chase, it's empty. Ecclesiastes is real to me. It ain't nothing but vapor.
So with all of that,
Yeah.
you mentioned therapy, right? Do you think that therapy is enough?
Woo. Yo. No. The reason being is because I believe I promote therapy because I believe therapy is a good first step. But I think what we need the most is authentic, transparent, non-judgmental community where we can rip off our labels, throw away our ego, and land and say, I can be me in this brotherhood. I don't have to put on any airs. I don't have to act like I know everything. I can just be me. I can say what I want to say. I can do what I want to do, and I won't be judged for it. Now, some people won't like that because some people are like, well, no, you need to make sure that you have this all. That's the problem because people cannot be authentic. And because we have lost all sense of authenticity, we don't know who we are anymore. So it's very difficult to identify with who I am. So even if I wanted to make a change, I don't know who I am. I don't have a starting point to even start from to change. So to go back to your question, do I think therapy is enough? Absolutely not. I think that therapy is a great starting point. I'm an advocate for it. I believe in it. I go to it myself. But if there's going to be real heartfelt accountability, real heartfelt change, and all that kind of stuff, we need community. Because I'm telling you, for most of us, what's killing us the most is loneliness. Because we feel like we're all by ourselves. Because the biggest lie we believe is we're the only one going through what we're going through. I'm the only one. I'm the only one. Like, the brothers, they'll say, my marriage ain't good. Bro, it ain't been good for 6 years. This ain't good in my life. This ain't good in my life. And then when you get in community and then you start hearing other people like, yeah, my marriage ain't good either. You're like, hold on. What? Like, you and your wife, y'all arguing too? Yeah, man, it's hard. That kind of, it gives you something where you like, I'm not by myself. And then you bond in that. You bond in experience. You bond, while you out fly fishing. You bond while you out hunting. You bond, while you out sitting next to the fire, eating a sandwich, smoking a cigar, drinking a beer, whatever it is. Like you bond doing that. That's a bonding experience where you like, yo, I bonded over an experience that have now taken away the loneliness. So now I feel like I'm in community. You can't tell me men don't need that, because if men didn't need that, we wouldn't join gangs. If men didn't need that, we wouldn't join fraternities. Men need that because we want brotherhood. We want community. We want to identify with something that we believe is bigger than ourselves so that we can somehow become attached to it so we can try to find ourselves. We need that. And for some reason, again, I go back to the culture part of it. We forget that. We throw people in small groups and we think that's enough. But nevertheless, that's a whole nother podcast.
And men find sports as another common ground.
Absolutely, because it becomes a team sport. So I'm gonna play football. I'm gonna play basketball. I'm gonna play racquetball. I think racquetball is an individual type thing, but I'm gonna play cricket. I'm gonna play polio. I'm gonna play these things so I can be. You got polio, right? You ain't polio. Polio is a disease, ain't it? But don't be playing polio. Polio ain't it. But don't be playing polio. But polo. But you got, because you want to be on a team. You want to identify with something. That's why, man, you got sports. You got your favorite team. You got your favorite player. You got your favorite stuff. Men attach themselves to it. Like I had years ago, man, at my wife's women's conference, this girl stood up. She's like, Cornelius, I have a question for you. Why is it that men don't like to commit? And I was like, yo, who told you men like to commit? She said, I don't believe men like to commit. I was like, yo, whoever told you that lied. Men commit. Like, I know men who still committed to Atlanta Falcons, and we still trying to get to the Super Bowl. Like, we'll get there, but it's just, it's choking on the way. But it's like, I know men, they committed to the Dallas Cowboys. been committed for 50 years to the Dallas Cowboys. You can't tell me men don't commit. Men only commit to what they value. And if he don't value you, then the truth is, to be honest, he ain't gonna commit to you. That's just it. Men invest in what they value, and what they value, they commit to. He invests in the Dallas Cowboys. He got Dallas Cowboy gear. This man walking around with a Dallas Cowboy face mask. He committed to something. He committed to it. He committed to his car. He cleaned his car. He washed his car. He get his car fixed, get the spark plugs changed, get the tires changed, get the rims done, because he committed to it. We commit. We just commit when we find value in it. That's why we commit to a team, because we find value in the team. We can hate the sport, but we'll still play the sport just so we can have the camaraderie. But that's what we lacking. We lacking fellowship. And all I'm trying to do is get the Eagles to come flock together. Like, I know Eagles typically fly solo, but Eagles, we got to start coming together, because if not, we ain't gonna make it.
Do you think we can do that with all of the political divide and unrest that's going on?
Absolutely. I think we're reaching a fever pitch level where, although we're in the middle of a global pandemic, there's an epidemic of mental illness that is rising, and it's at a fever pitch level where we're going to have to do something. And regardless of political affiliation, regardless of all those different things, all that crap ain't gonna matter when it comes down to the point of, I'm by myself, I'm lonely, I feel like I won't make it anymore, I need some help. Like, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, American Party, black, white, it don't matter. At some point, we all got to sit down at that table of brotherhood and be able to have some honest conversations, some authentic conversations, some transparent conversations, some real non-judgmental conversations, and be like, yo, brother, how you really doing? How you really feeling? What's really going on with you? I'm not here to try to fix you. I'm not here to try to solve you. I'm not here to try to figure you out. All I want you to do is just talk, because most times when you can just get it out, that's enough to help.
What about for the brother that is actually looking for that and that needs that, but doesn't really know where to go?
Yeah.
They're in a place like East Bumble, Michigan,
Yeah.
where they don't have anybody. They don't have anybody that's around. The church that they go to is all white, and I'm not saying
I know what you mean, because we usually try to flock with those who are most like us.
Right. So what do you say to that guy that's looking for that doesn't have that?
This is my response to that. One of the things I'm working on right now is creating that place. The thing is that I believe in order for me to be effective in creating it, that guy in East Bumble, Michigan, is going to have to come out of his comfort zone to come to a place in order to find that. So one of the places that we go to is Montana. One of the organizations I'm partnering with, Refuge Foundation in Montana, where Refuge Foundation was a place where I started to find myself, where I started to wake up. Out in the middle of nowhere, Montana, where, I never forget when the dude invited me out to Montana. I was like, the white pastor invited me out. And my first thing was, I told my wife, I was like, I ain't going to that. She's like, why? I was like, ain't no black people in no Montana. Like, they going to take me out there an hour and a half away from the airport, kill me. You can't find me no more. I'm going to go with a bunch of white dudes. I'm from Mississippi. I know what racism look like. Ku Klux Klan used to burn their cross a mile and a half from our trailer. Like, I know what racism looks like. Like, that was in the 90s. That was in the 80s and the 90s, bro. So I'm like, I ain't doing that. But I went out there and I found myself. I found my life. And I think that if we have to create more spaces like that, that takes these men out of their comfort zones and removes them from what they're most comfortable with, what they're most used to, and put them in spaces that causes for them to have to either adapt or they got to shake where they were, got to shake what they were doing, shake where they were at. I mean, for me, taking me out of where I'm most comfortable and putting me in, in Montana and telling me we're going to go hunt, we're going to go fly fishing. I'm what you will refer to as indoorsy. I don't really go outside. Like, you've been trying to get me to go hunting go camping for the longest. Like, yo, I'm not camping. Like, that ain't my style. So we're working right now on creating those spaces all over. Like, finding those refuge houses where we can have men. We can have men on rotation coming in, coming out, so they can build this thing that they need. If we don't get this, if we don't have this, I don't really know what else we're gonna have, bro. Like, we gotta have something. And to that man who's listening, all I can say is, brother, help is on the way. I mean, I do think that there are some things he could do now. I mean, even in that church where it may seem different, where it may seem like, yo, I don't think this church can. I'm really vibing here. It's like maybe they would have a community that becomes something like that you need. But whatever that is, like, we gotta find a place like that. Because if we don't find that, I'm nervous. But then here's the other piece to that too. To the brother that's in Bumblebee, Michigan, whatever you mentioned. For that brother who is there, he has to be willing to say he needs the help, and then to step out of himself and his ego long enough in order to go and get it. Because if he don't do that, he's going to be ruined too.
So I want to talk about personal regrets.
Yeah. And
things that you have experienced or may have experienced in life that has helped you to grow in a way that you didn't even think you would grow. What regrets do you have?
I don't know, man. Like, honestly, I've learned more from failure than I have success. Failure matured me.
What was one of the biggest things that you failed at?
I would say, I don't know. I don't know if I can really quantify one of them and say that was my biggest one. I will say, like, times in my marriage where I didn't always say the right thing. Like, in the beginning of my marriage, like, I didn't think my wife and I were gonna make it. Like, that first 2 years, it was almost like divorce every other day. And I look back, now, and as a husband, I look back and I'm like, man, what was I setting up for my marriage back then? You know what I mean? I think that, like, that's something I think about a lot. Thinking back to that.
Well, people on the outside may look and say that you have a great marriage and say, you getting a divorce? Like, how is that even possible? You have 3 beautiful kids. At the time you didn't have 3 beautiful kids, but still, you have your beautiful wife. You seem very happy and in love. And somebody would go on to think that, you have problems in your marriage. Like, man, I didn't know that.
Hell yeah. Everybody does. That's that thing about the culture where I'm like, yo, you can't put people on, like, you can't put people on the pedestal, I get people who are like, they'll be like, yo, I can't be like, my wife and I, so we host marriage retreats. We did it 7 years straight, right? And we were hosting this marriage retreat. It was on a cruise. And we were cruising. We had 25 couples. We were headed to Cuba and Bahamas. And we got in front of the people. We're like, yeah, we had some hard times in our marriage. We didn't think we were going to make it, blah, blah. This couple came up to me afterwards, and they were like, we don't believe you. And we like, what don't you believe? It's like, we feel like you're lying. We lying about what? We don't feel like y'all have any problems. I'm like, we don't have any problems. Like, bro, like, are you serious? Like, we're human. Like, you ain't met me and my wife. Like, I have a very strong personality. My wife also has a very strong personality. So you can only imagine what our conversations are like. Like, cause it's like with my wife, who she knows who she is. She knows what she want to say. And that's it. And I know who I am. I know what I want to say, and that's it. So a lot of times, like, trying to work through that is difficult. Trying to live with somebody else is difficult. Trying to figure out how this is going to work is difficult. And that stuff don't go away. It's like we only have the type of marriage we have because we choose to have it. Like, only reason why we ain't got a divorce is because the both of us have chosen to work at it. That's it. We make a decision. But here's the thing. We make the decision every single day. Like, every single day we have to reset our vows. So we don't. I mean, that's not something we do. But I'm just saying, like, every single day I have to vow. I just do it when, like, I have to vow. I have to vow. I'm gonna stay in this. Hurt, wrong, indifferent, no matter what it is, I'm gonna stick in this thing. Am I right? No. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. But I'm gonna stick in this thing. That's the only thing we got. I look at my kids, bro. I look at everything else that we're building. I look at everything else we're doing. I'm like, yo, I have to stick in this thing. Am I perfect? A long way from it. Is she perfect? A long way from it. But yeah, we gotta stick it out.
So what's a common misconception that people think about you or think that may be true about you, but it's really completely false?
I don't know, man. Honestly, I don't even know what people be thinking. I don't know. I know people, they like to label my wife and I as thieves. And I feel like that one kind of pisses me off the most, because we work so, we work so hard to go in the opposite direction. I mean, we open up our house to people, we give to people. We don't make a sounding board on everything we do for people. You know what I mean? So it's like the last thing that we are thieves that we want to get over on people. Like, I wonder, like, do some people even have brains? Like, do you think? Like, do you honestly it's like, why would I need to steal when I can be successful as an entrepreneur? But again, it goes back into people want to place you in that box. And they don't want you to be like, well, you're a pastor, so that you have to be able to take from the church. I'm like, yo, the church can't fund me. Like, the lifestyle I have, the church ain't big enough to do that for me. And I never wanted it to. Like, my wife and I, we became entrepreneurs in 2010. We started our church in 2013. So I lived, like, she and I left my last 9-to-5 job October 2010. So my wife and I, we lived from October 2010 to January 2013. And then after January 2013, we weren't even financially viable as a church until, 2013, almost 2015, or 2016 rather. So I think that's a big misconception. I've gotten mean, and I'm like, well, I don't feel like I'm mean. I feel like I'm a really nice person. It don't piss me off, but I feel like I'm a really nice person. But honestly, I don't know. I guess it's one of those things important. I mean, Jesus did ask, who do you say that I am? And then who do others say that I am? So I guess that is one of those important things a leader you should know, but honestly, I don't.
So who are you?
I wrote down, I have a couple different mantras. So these are things that I usually say to myself, and I'm saying this before I get to this point. I have a couple different mantras. Like, one of my mantras is, I show up. It's always show up. Always show up. Don't hide. Always show up. Don't fall back, and don't hide. And that is one of my most important mantras, because for years I was afraid to be authentically me. Because as a pastor, there was a box. And then as a husband, there was a box. As a father, there was a box. As a Christian, there was a box. And I found myself having to box myself into this idea of who I was supposed to be. So now when I meet somebody, I'm going somewhere, I tell myself, Cornelius, show up. Show up. You don't have to puff up. You don't have to pull back. You're the puff up. You ain't got you do not have to be the best person in the room. Just show up. Your presence itself is electrifying. Just show up. You're the puff up. You don't have to step back. You don't have to skate back. If they ask you a question, you answer it, and you answer it authentically. So in answering the question, who am I? Authentically me is the contextual answer. But in really defining who I am, man, I am a man who I passionately love the Lord Jesus Christ, knowing that he died on the cross for my sin. I am passionate about seeing people live wholehearted lives, and I'm passionate about authenticity. I'm passionate about seeing people whole and living a fulfilled life.
I appreciate that. When you see people that are not living that way, and do you ever feel like there's nothing you can do to help?
A lot of times I do feel helpless. Because sometimes I don't know if people want the help. In the process of change, you got pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, so on and so forth. Pre-contemplation is, I don't even think I had a problem, so there is no change. Pre-contemplation is just sincere denial. I look out at the world today, and I just ask God every day to give me eyes of empathy. And I look out at the world, man, I see people who, they're doing big things, but I can tell what they're doing is killing them. They're conquering things, but whatever they're conquering is conquering them. They're losing their family in the process, losing their kids, you know. They're not being really authentically true with who they are. And so a lot of times I do feel insufficient. Like for that guy you just mentioned, like that broke my heart, the guy in Michigan, because I'm like, there are millions of men all over the world just like him. Like I know guys right now around the world, you know, from Nigeria to Kenya to South Africa to Tanzania to Uganda to Australia to Perth and Sydney and, you know, London. Even in the continental United States, I know guys in Venezuela. I know guys in India, Canada. I know guys in China, Sri Lanka. These guys are hurting. And they're just crying out for help. And I just want to spend the rest of my days giving them hope. First, give them the hope of the world, and I feel like that's in Jesus Christ. And then secondly, give them the hope that's found in pure, authentic, transparent, non-judgmental community. Like, men need it, man. Our boys are like killing themselves, bro. I had this dude from church. So as a pastor, for y'all don't know, like I would come out towards the end I had 3 services, and I would come out after every service. You know, I would come out after every service to greet people. And I think it was after like the second service, this guy came out, he walked up to me and he shook my hand, and he reached out his hand, and I shook his hand, like I dapped him up and I brought him in, and I like, you know, gave him a dap on the back, and he just kind of looked at me, he's like, wow. And I was like, what's up, man? What's going on? I said, what's your name? He said, hi, I'm gay. I looked at him. I said, hi, gay. And he was like, huh? I was like, hi, gay. My name is Cornelius. And he was like, no, you don't understand. Like, I'm gay. And I was like, okay, you don't understand. I'm Cornelius. And he's like, no, I'm actually gay. And I was like, oh, okay, you tell me about your sexual preference. Is that what you're doing now? I get it. I feel like for him, he was waiting. He was waiting for me to dismiss him. He was waiting for me to beat him down. He was waiting for me to judge him in that moment. And he was shocked that I chose not to. I looked at him and I said, why did you feel it was so important for you to tell me that? Because here's the thing. He told me his sexual preference. He had to approach me with a label before he even gave me his name. That tells me that there's a pattern. There's a historical pattern in his life where that his preference, however he's attached himself, for his identity, it has become such a prevalent point, such a hot button topic in his life that is now how he has to introduce himself. Where I'm like, yo, but there's probably so much more to you than just that. But I guess that is, for him, that's like the most prevalent, hard-hitting thing. And he's like, well, if you can accept this, then maybe you can accept me. And honestly, it's like, yo, the reason why I may not like you may not be because your preference, dude. The reason why I may not like you because your breath might stink. And you might need to take a shower. So, it's a funny moment. But I realized even in that moment how serious the situation is, how labeling and all these things. I wonder about all the men out there who've found themselves in labels and they're in boxes and they're in all these things right now. And they're shaping their identity based on who they think they are, the people they run with, the people who they used to run with, and all this kind of crap. They don't know who they are. And they're lost, man. That's the real work. That's the work that I want to do. I don't want to call it real work because I'm not out here saying people are here doing fake work. But that's the work I want to commit myself to for the rest of my life. And that's the reason why I want to do this podcast. That was the whole reason why I wanted to do To Be Honest. Because I want an opportunity to be honest about things that I feel like we need to talk about. Just have honest discussion. This is what it's going to be. This is how it is. People ain't gonna like it. I mean, people gonna be offended by every little thing that's what people do. People just get offended. People butt hurt over everything. That's gonna be okay. But I had to have something where I can be able to be authentic and I can be able to be pure, I can be transparent, and I can have my homies come on here and give a non-judgmental talk. So we can just have some conversation, put it out there in the world.
So that leads me to my next question. So what's next?
Yo, so I'm working on growing this community for men. I have something I created called Kingman, and the whole point of that is creating this community so that men can be able to come together. Right now it's virtual, but it's something I want to continue to expand. And so I've almost become like a mentor or a coach to some guys. I've really grown into that. I mean, I still have that heart of a pastor. I still want to see people healthy. I want to see people whole. So like right now I've been taking people through, like I have a 5-day intensive program that I take men through. And I've already taken some guys through, from London and, New York, California, Massachusetts. I've already taken these guys through this program, Kenya, Nigeria, and being able to see just after 5 days to see their life being changed just from things that I've learned from my own life has been mind-blowing. It's been amazing for me to see. And then to get their reviews has been absolutely amazing too. So one of the things is I want to focus on really growing Kingman. The second thing is I have to create these spaces. I got to find these houses. I got to find these spaces out in the middle of nowhere where men can be detached from their phones, can be detached from society, can be detached from life, be detached from their laptops, be detached from the office. And, you're going out in the middle of nowhere and you're bonding with brothers. You're sitting out at a table together. You're eating together. You're I mean, you're doing everything you got to do together. You're pissing outside. Like going back to that, you know what I mean? You go out there, you shooting something, and then you got dirty hands, but you eating a sandwich with it, like that kind of stuff. I gotta create those places. Now for that, I'm gonna need some help. I need some resources. I need some guys out there. I need some people out there who say, you know what, I can help fund this. We can buy this house over here. We can buy this plot of land over here. We can build this thing over here. We can help these men over here. We can do this over here. Like I need those resources. I need those connections. I need that. I have a ton of connections right now. I'm good. I'm good with connecting with people. I know a lot of people. I know there are so many other brothers out there. I know people out there who have those type of resources. I got to tap into those resources because right now, every day we lose, every day that goes by, we're losing more men. And if we don't think this is a problem, a manless society, like we already see what's going on with our generation of men, this our generation of boys is growing up right now. A fatherless community, you know what kind of rebellious culture that creates? And not only our little boys, but also our little girls. I think we're at DEFCON level, bro. So, Kingman, creating those places, like I said, I partner with a Refuge Foundation to help them. I'm still traveling, still preaching. Right now, I guess I consider myself more of a evangelist. So I get invites to churches and stuff like that, still conferences, and then I'm also doing my men's conference again this year. And the theme of it is Outlast, because I want my brothers to outlast. I think the conference is in June 2021, but and then I give more details about that. But I got to create that place where men can come and be able to kind of get fed, get poured into, so we can walk away from something that's going to be energizing and take us home, so we can outlast all the hell and all the crap we're going through.
My guy, thanks, man. That's all the questions I got for you.
Man, I appreciate it, bro. And like, if this is your first time even joining us, to be honest, I want to thank you for even taking the time, and make sure you share the podcast. Make sure you subscribe to it. Tell everybody you know. People always ask, is this just for men? While I am talking to men, my wife eavesdrops on all type of conversations all the time. She's like, what you and your friends talk about? Like, that's like the guy code, the man law for me is that I don't share, because like what my boys tell me, no, you don't get that. The same way like my girl, my wife with her ladies, I'm like, I want you to establish trust with your lady friends. So I don't want to know what's going on in your lady friend's life. If they choose to bring it up, that's cool, but you establish trust with them. So, ladies, y'all already be snooping. So if you already snooping, you just getting some information. It's almost like sitting on a barbershop talk. You like, that's what they be talking about in the barbershop. That's how they really feel. Because I'm going to just tell you something, ladies. I talk some relationships. Y'all wear some underwear. Like, no, wear a diaper. Because I don't want you to piss all over yourself when you hear what we got to say. Because hey, look, if you ain't been offended, you're going to probably be offended. But you're going to be all right, though. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. I know our society has gotten like really, cancel culture friendly and all that kind of stuff. But we got to do something about this. We got to do something about it. We got to shake it off, grow up a little bit. Y'all, I love y'all. Share, subscribe, to be honest. Intro, deuces.